620,000 Americans dead in 4 years. That's more American deaths than World War I, World War II, Korea, and Vietnam combined. And the crazy part? It wasn't a foreign enemy that killed them. It was each other. This is the story of a nation that nearly destroyed itself, and why, 160 years later, we are still feeling the consequences. Stick with me for the next 8 minutes, because by the end of this video, you won't just know the Civil War, you'll understand why it was always inevitable. To understand the Civil War, you have to understand one uncomfortable truth about America in the 1800s. This was not one country. This was two countries wearing the same flag. The North was industrializing fast. Factories, railroads, wage labor, a modern economy taking shape. The South? It was running on cotton, and cotton ran on slavery. By 1860, there were 4 million enslaved Black Americans in the South. They weren't just a moral issue. They were the entire economic engine of the Southern way of life. Plantation owners weren't going to give that up quietly. And then, in November 1860, the South's worst nightmare walked straight into the White House. Abraham Lincoln, a man who didn't even appear on the ballot in most Southern states. A man who, to the South, represented an existential threat to everything they'd built. Before Lincoln even took the oath of office, 7 states had already seceded. The fuse had been lit a long time ago. Lincoln was just the match. Most people think the Civil War was simple North good, South bad, slavery ended, done. But the real story is far more complicated, far more human, and honestly, far more terrifying. In the next 6 minutes, I'm going to break down the causes, the turning points, the key battles, and the one pattern that explains why civil wars happen and why they never fully end. And hey, if you're the kind of person who actually wants to understand history, not just memorize dates for a test hit, that subscribe button right now. Every week we break down the biggest moments in American history in a way your textbook never did. April 12th, 1861. Confederate forces opened fire on Fort Sumter, South Carolina. The Civil War had begun. Now here's what almost nobody tells you. Both sides thought it would be over in 90 days. The South thought the North wouldn't fight. The North thought the South couldn't. They were both catastrophically wrong. Year 1. The South was winning. Generals like Robert E. Lee, brilliant, tactical, beloved by his men, were running circles around Union commanders. The Battle of Bull Run sent Union soldiers running back to Washington in panic. Lincoln was desperately searching for a general who could actually fight. Year 2. The war changes forever. September 22nd, 1862. After the bloody stalemate at Antietam, the single deadliest day in American military history, 23,000 casualties in one day, Lincoln seizes the moment. He issues the Emancipation Proclamation. This move was pure genius. It reframed the entire war. Suddenly, this wasn't just a fight to preserve the Union, it was a fight to end slavery. That single document made it almost impossible for Britain or France to side with the Confederacy, because no European power wanted to be publicly pro-slavery. Lincoln had just changed the entire geopolitical chessboard with one piece of paper. Year 3. Gettysburg, July 1st to 3rd, 1863. 3 days in a Pennsylvania town that nobody had heard of. 50,000 casualties. Lee's army marched in like conquerors. They left shattered. It was the last time the Confederacy would ever take the fight to northern soil. The tide had turned, and Lincoln finally found his general, Ulysses S. Grant, a man who didn't maneuver around the enemy. He went through them. His strategy was brutal and simple. The South had fewer men, so he would wear them down until there was nothing left. April 9th, 1865. Robert E. Lee surrendered to Grant at Appomattox Courthouse, Virginia. The war was over, but 5 days later, Abraham Lincoln, the man who had held the country together through its worst nightmare, was shot in the back of the head at Ford's Theater. He died the next morning. And with him, so did much of the hope for a peaceful Reconstruction. The Civil War is the defining event of American history. Everything that came before it was building toward it. Everything after it is still reacting to it. If this video gave you a new way of looking at it, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Drop your thoughts in the comments. I read every single one. Next week, we're covering Reconstruction, the 12 years after the Civil War that most history classes completely skip over. And trust me, that story might be even more important than the war itself.